Hello, hello, hello. You are very welcome to the Overlap Rugby podcast. This is number 72. I'm Shane. That's Daragh.
Hello.
And this is our World Cup Final special. We've made it all the way through the tournament. We've had some laughs, had some tears. We've made it as far as we only ever do every year in terms of our own patriotism, but we've enjoyed some tremendous rugby along the way and gained some new subscribers. Really enjoyed your input as well. Love to hear our comment sections, and yeah, it's been an awesome tournament so far. Credit to Japan for putting it on, and yeah, I just really enjoyed every second of it so far, and we've got down to our final two. It is England and South Africa, the Springboks.
It is.
England, the two big physical sides are going to be duking it out in the grand final, and that is going to be the focus of this week's show. Is mainly going to be a preview, but we will also continue our tradition throughout. For those who've been following us throughout, we will be saying our farewells to those who we lost in the semi-final stage, but we'll do in that slightly different context because we do have a game to preview, the bronze final, which will be happening on Friday, where we'll take a look at both the All Blacks and Wales, who didn't quite manage to get through their respective semi-finals.
No, indeed, yeah. But the main crux of the show is going to be the two previews. That's sort of the format of what we do. Mm-hmm. We are going to be sort of looking back on the semi-finals and what made them go the way they went in the context of those a little bit. Sure. But it's all building on sort of previewing that final game. Mm-hmm. Yeah, big welcome to everybody who's new. I know we got a bit of reaction last week to the Wales South Africa video. It was very nice to get a load of people in, a load of comments in. Yeah. We do love that. If you are new here, please subscribe, definitely comment. We do enjoy an active comment section, and it's fun to see the chat going on in there. Yeah. Like, share, and ring the bell.
Ring the bell to be notified of when our videos come out, because they can be sometimes sporadic depending on when we get our chance to shoot it.
They can, of course. And just one more final bit of ado is we will be on Unbiased Rugby's channel. Ourselves and Modern Bach, if you're familiar with his channel, will both be on Don's channel later this evening.
Yes.
So that'll be at 7 p.m. Irish time, 8 p.m. South African time.
Yep.
We'll be on and we'll be live streaming then, so be sure to check that out.
For sure. But in the meantime, I think that's enough ado. We will be getting into the show. And what a show we have for you as well. We're going to start, as I said, by taking a look at the bronze final, which obviously is a bit of a dead rubber. It's always a bit of a well, to be honest, like it's a bit of a dead rubber in terms of build-up, but it often ends up being the more open, more exciting, certainly more pacey game, because finals, we all know, can get very tetchy and very nervy, and the stakes are very high, whereas the stakes are, admitted by both teams' admission, not as high, and it's just a chance for them to get a run out and say a few farewells. It'll be good to see probably the last game in black and red for a lot of these players, but certainly for both the coaches. So that'll be happening on Friday, 1st of November, 9 a.m. Irish time, and it'll be taking place in Tokyo Stadium, and reffed by Wayne Barnes, who is unlucky. England's triumph is Barnes's dismay, because we had him touted for a final, and I'm sure he was earmarked as one candidate, but obviously can't be reffing England because England made it all the way to the final. So he is here in the bronze final reffing the All Blacks and Wales. And it's an interesting game. We have Grand Slam champs Wales versus the mighty All Blacks, so that's already colour enough. We kind of have in the Welsh team a bit of defensive nous versus the offensive flair that is the All Blacks. And we also, as I was saying, the last games for both Hansen and Warren Gatland. Both saying farewell in this game. Which is
I had poo-pooed it when it was initially flagged in the context of Ireland. Was this idea that the Joe Schmidt announcing he was leaving had some sort of impact. Yeah. And yet after this weekend, I was sort of looking at the England and the Springbok teams and contrasting them to the Wales and New Zealand teams. And while even the last World Cup, you did have a lot of turnaround. There was McCall's last heading and Carter's last heading, Nonu, Conrad Smith, all of these great players. But at the same time, it was Hansen wasn't going anywhere. It did have plenty of young talent. It was a side that was very much at the peak of its development. Yeah. And even not even quite being on the peak, but you're almost better off being on the rise or at the peak of your development than you are being sort of a settled team going into the sort of going into the end
the last hurrah.
The last hurrah doesn't seem to work out in World Cups. Yeah.
It's sort of like something to that. This product life cycle stuff of where it kind of goes off and then explodes, then plateaus.
If you contrast them to like where England and the Boks are, there aren't many goodbyes from the final this week. Yeah. Like Eddie Jones is sticking around, Rassie's obviously sticking around. Yeah. The whole squad, the bulk of the team. Like, I mean, the Springboks did have a goodbye vid the other day. It was the final training session for Scott Brits.
Yes,
they were giving him hugs, but I mean, he's not going to be playing there anyway. But for the most part, that squad is still young and hungry. Yeah, and likewise with England, save like the likes of Joe Marler, etc. One or two guys. Yeah. But for the most part, young, hungry squads, and then you contrast them with Wales, and even though Wales do have a lot of young players, not too many guys rolling over.
It was like Warren Gatland and Alan Wynne-Jones going on a last hurrah, trying to bring it home. Getting there. Exactly.
That's just one little bit of colour, is that they are sort of the aged teams. The All Blacks, we obviously watch live, and they're 19-7, hammering as brutal a 19-7 defeat that there could ever be. I mean, they just didn't get a thing off.
Yeah, it's true.
And I actually think like there was a lot touted about the English physicality, which is real.
Yes,
but it was smarts. Like, it was a tactical game.
They taught them.
Like the All Blacks are just it was a really modern, sophisticated team with a very clever plan in terms
of
a
high skill level themselves as well.
But just in terms of pinning the All Blacks back and dictating virtually everything about where the game was played against a team that just does sort of like the playoff instinct and throw the ball around, and England didn't allow them to do any of it, and it's going to be a bit of a head scratcher for them for the years to come. I mean, in terms of World Cup defeats, there's a touch of unprecedented about it. Even in 07 they had their Wayne Barnes complaint. In 03 that narrow irritating loss to Australia, 99 against France again. Every time they were sort of had an aggrievement or a reason why it was always very tight, and they always had their excuse, but they've never quite been beaten in a World Cup like that before. And I wonder if it's just going to give them a moment's pause in terms of what they're doing.
They have a moment's pause. Like, this game is from both sides. They have rotated the squads. We do have the squads for it a little bit. It is a bit of a kickabout, to be honest. For the most part, the game it is a dead rubber for a reason. But they will both want to be winning it. But yeah, you're right in saying the All Blacks will have to be scratching their heads after that one, because I don't know if they have any ever experience of being totally dominated like that, just handled from minute one. And like, I think we were right in saying we did say a lot of this in our live stream from last week. We were kind of talking through this game in great depth, or that game in great depth. Was just they didn't seem up to the emotional pitch from minute one, whereas England were so bullish. And then the restart happened, and the game just took shape from like the first few sets, where it was England devastating restart, forced them to exit, slightly sloppy on the exit, and just seizing control and not allowing them to get anything off. And the sort of part of the downside of their approach of just being skills based and like giving a little bit of shape, but kind of empowering your players to try and go and find the space and chase it, is when a team has been coached to the level and are as big and physical and fast as England are getting up in your face and closing that door. It's hard for them to adjust on the fly and go back to certain shapes or patterns to try and unpick that. It's a little tougher. Yeah. Whereas if you're a hyper drilled team that have different kind of different sets for different scenarios, maybe you have a bit more flexibility.
Yeah, it was a typical example of what was going on at the restarts when the All Blacks were kicking off, which they had to do a lot more of than receiving kicks.
For sure.
Those little chippy ones from Barrett that they were routinely getting a hand to, and every time English players were just getting into that passing lane and gobbling up the ball every time.
Yeah, and they never
made the adjustment to kick deep. Yeah, so there was a touch of all of that to the All Blacks and how they went, and conversely Wales went about the game
as well as they could have. I feel.
Yeah, well, certainly like we expected them to. I mean, definitely. I was sort of supporting the Boks. I know you were sort of supporting Wales. But midway through that second half, I was kind of nervously going, "Oh, this does look an awful lot like the picture of a Wales win." Yeah, they were gaining a bit of parity. Nobody was quite taking control of that kicking game. So instead of the side who won the kicking game dictating what actually happened in the game, it was actually sort of a stalemate because neither side was really taking control of that area.
Exactly,
and then there was just one or two wily Welsh plays here or there at lineouts, milking penalties, soft penalties off Garcés and getting up the pitch and getting to that drawn game, getting down the pitch after the Lindy try.
That was remarkable, to be fair to them.
And getting the score off set piece. Faf de Klerk making the error off the scrum, shooting in on the number 8 for no reason. And they took it really well. Josh Adams bagging number 6.
This is it. He's sitting pretty at the top now of the try scoring stakes. With this game to come, where there probably will be tries going.
But considering their injuries and considering just how physically outmatched they are by what the Boks are bringing in the forwards, it was a very creditable performance.
It was a really good showing.
It was just when the Springbok bench came on, those elite sort of bomb squad boys that the Boks bring on, it was just too much. And Wales had that offensive set when it was 16-all to get up the pitch and score that ended in the Francois Lowe steal. But I mean, that was... it must have been 10, 15, 13 maybe phases of just going backwards and backwards and backwards and not being able to get a thing off against the Bok defence that was still hungry because they've only gone and brought on 6 monster forwards off the bench. And just super hungry and winning all those contacts.
It was small margins, and they were very the Welsh depletion through injury. They lost George North during that game, but they really could have used Liam Williams for that game more than probably any other in the tournament, and it was the one he wasn't available for. He was in great form. He's imperious in the air. He would have Halfpenny, the fine player, but he's nowhere near the authority in the air that Wales have when Liam Williams is there, and him with bigger bombs and catches. Those two could have been the ones to seize control of that kicking game and maybe change the shape a little bit, but he wasn't there and it wasn't to be. And the Springboks showed great clutch themselves to dig themselves out of what was probably a stickier game than they had anticipated. And
I think they knew they were in for a challenge. They were just there for the ride as far as the kicking game was concerned, but they neither side took control of that, so they did manage to eke it out, and their forward pack was the difference. But that was the story of Wales's tournament exit ahead of this game. In terms of the game itself, it is just a kickabout, as we say. It's not the biggest. It's really not the biggest deal in the world. But I mean, Wales, they'll certainly be looking to show more. We tout them as a versatile team. They'll certainly look to be showing a bit more attacking flair.
They probably will. Both teams.
I know they've gone for Watkin and Jay Davis in the centre this time.
Patchell at 10 is indicative of trying to run the ball a bit more.
Halamamus at fullback.
He's another exciting young talent.
It's definitely running the ball. Owen Lane, everyone's raving about there.
Even with Tipperick and Moriarty and now
James
Davis, not Jonathan. And James Davis in the back row is a bit of another pacey back row that'll be fiendish. It's an exciting team. Their props are all mobile as well in it too. They'll be trying to move the ball around. They'll be trying their darndest to try and grab as many scores as they can. They may be up against a wounded animal in the All Blacks who will be desperate to try and salvage some pride, and the bronze, losing back to back is never something the All Blacks are want to do.
Losing 2 in a World Cup is something they've never done.
Indeed. It would be you'd be remiss to predict that happening now. I think.
No, I mean, listen, they've got to, in terms of when they have the ball, they've just got to move it. They've got to roll with it. The All Black D has some holes in it. It's about breaking it up. It's about getting the ball into Jay Davis's hands in that 13 channel. He is their biggest attacking weapon. Having Patchell run the offense, it's going to be a fun game.
Watkin and him, that's exciting. To be fair, they're all good attacking players.
They can all offload. They can all make reads off each other. It is sort of dependent on whether they can get that go forward from the collisions. I think Thomas Williams instead of Garrett Davis is a bit of a risk. The form Garrett Davis is in.
True.
Although if there's one thing we know for sure about this game is that Garrett Davis is going to score a try off the bench.
It's an inevitability,
regardless of the context.
It could be their only score in a hammering. It could be the winning score. We don't know, but it will be a score.
Yes. And All Black fans just got to get ready for that. You just got to accept that. That's just 7 points Wales have on the board.
Especially against the All Blacks, they do leave tries to score.
Garrett Davis is going to score a try. We all know that from the bench. But outside of that, with the ball, in terms of holes in the All Black D, it's sort of disjointed. It's Sonny Bill and Crotty. It's Ben Smith. It's Rico Ioane. It's all new. I fancy them to just
go.
As they did against Fiji, just play with that little bit of nous, kick when they need to kick. Attack when they need to attack. Watkin is actually got defter hands than he gets given credit for, and him and Jay Davis in the centre is exciting. And if they can link up and pick runs off each other, that's where they're going to be looking in the holes. And obviously, Crotty and Sonny Bill are going to be doing their best to shut that down. From a defensive point of view for Wales, it does get even that bit more bleak.
It does, but like they know their systems. They're actually, for such a versatile team, they tend to defend quite rigidly in one format, and it involves a lot of harrying at breakdown, generally one or two players in the defensive breakdown to try and slow the ball up, as well as fanning out across the pitch. I think they're the only team in World Rugby that do that so consistently. They both challenge and fan out.
Well, they both challenge and blitz. I don't know how well they fan out.
They kind of they find like it's as we've said, because they're competing, the space is outside the 13 channel, and it takes a team brave enough to go there to exploit them. They didn't have that against the Boks, which is where the stalemate came from. The Boks weren't really courageous enough to take them on there more often. Yeah, the All Blacks will be, particularly a rotated All Black squad with a few players with a point to prove. And
I mean, look, on paper that All Black attack is so good. Yeah, it's a crazy one to try and shut down. I think in terms of battles, yes, the outside shoulder Jay Davis against Ryan Crotty and whoever's in that channel, whether it's Dane Coles, whoever finds themselves in that channel from an All Black point of view, that's where they're going to be attacking. Yeah. But inside of that, when Sonny Bill has the pill, Watkins got to handle that as well.
Indeed, and that's a big challenge for Watkin, who's like a very very solid defender, but he's very rarely playing against an opposition of the caliber and the varied threats that Sonny Bill brings. So that's a challenge.
Exactly.
For sure.
I dare say shape wise there are ways that they can pick their way around it. It is going to be dependent on whether Wales can slow that ball up in the tight. Because All Blacks, they will go for a little forward pod, maybe first two hit up phases in terms of setting up a multi-phase. Yeah. If Wales can stymie it there and then, that's probably their best picture, because what's coming after that is a bit of quick ball, and then they're just going to they're going to use Sonny Bill to sit down the two Welsh centres, and if they ease off him, they're going to give it to him. He's going to make shit happen. If they bite in on him, you got the two distributors. You got Moong in behind to Barrett, and then it's just
this is why I wouldn't be surprised to see some space for Crotty, to be honest, because he's just Sonny Bill just draws those eyeballs.
He does,
and Crotty's wily, and he's unassuming, but he's wily enough to spot and take a gap when it's there as well. I actually quite like that centre partnership for the All Blacks, to be honest. We haven't seen it that often this tournament, but it's got delicious potential in it. But you're right in saying whether they can slow them up or not is key. Because like England, we laid out the blueprint that I don't think any team's going to follow as well as they did in terms of shutting them down. But it involves winning those close collisions to not allow that quick
It was
ball.
Such a different game. If you want to follow the English blueprint, there is a huge amount that does come from the kicking game as well. From just playing it in the right areas and on the right terms. But their systems are so sophisticated and so much clever. They had a play for everything.
Indeed,
they were ready for everything.
A disjointed Welsh team having the same.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that are they going to have that same wily Tipperick, Alan Wynne-Jones axis that's just everywhere and disruptive? Because that is where Wales are at their best. Are they going to be able to disrupt the All Black ball at the breakdown, at the line out, off the restarts? Certainly, I think taking and just pilfering the English idea of just getting into that passing lane off the restarts, because the All Blacks just did not adjust.
No,
chippy little restarts and trying to flick it back in the prettiest of pictures.
Paid no dividends for them that time, but that's not to say it won't work and yield a try this time around.
That's where you like to think that Wales will be smart enough to make that adjustment and get in those lanes and disrupt them.
For sure. But then also like some classic Welsh kind of stuff. If they do get quick ball and they're bringing those big carriers, it's chop and jackal. Chop and jackal all day. It's something they pioneered under Warren Gatland. It's something they're still very confident and comfortable doing. They have it in Tipperick and Davis. They do actually have out and out open sides who will go foraging, and Ken Owens as well is not averse to that too. So they know exactly what needs to be done. It's always easier said than done though against this mighty All Black team, especially when they're wounded from the week before and looking to come out and right some wrongs. But in terms of set piece,
I mean, we have covered it,
but there's some great battles. Retallick and actually not Whitelock this time. They've opted with Scott Barrett. Sam Whitelock has played his last game in an All Black jersey, because he's not on the bench either. It does look that way, and it wasn't a great showing from him, but he is an absolute legend of the game and a legend of All Black rugby. But it's Whitelock and Barrett with Tui Pilato to come off the bench versus that axis of basically Tipperick and Alan Wynne-Jones with Beard in there, the non-bearded,
hopefully a good James Davis performance.
He's another line-out option too. And we have it's a very wily line-out, and it is the Welsh one. They did, as I predicted, cost the Springboks their first line-out of the tournament. They nicked one.
They did,
and it was like, of course they did. So they'll probably try and get a play or two off against Barrett and Retallick are. less in sync maybe as the other two, but they're two bloody good players as well, and they'll also be wounded from last week, so that's going to be interesting. Scrum will probably be parity. I think the All Blacks have an edge, but I don't know if they'll get absolutely on top and go.
No, I don't think it's hard to say because so much of this game is going to depend on who's being on the fever pitch. And sort of superficially, I would say that looks, just even from the chat, it looks a bit more like the All Blacks. I mean, all of the All Black chat virtually since the end of the England game has been like, I'm excited to get one more hit out. Where what you're hearing murmurings from the Welsh camp of like, why is this even a game?
Which doesn't bode well pre-kickoff.
It definitely doesn't bode well, and certainly just being at the fever pitch is everything. But you would like to think that come Friday, Wales will
get there.
It's a game against the All Blacks. It's a game for your best ever World Cup finish.
Indeed,
it's like exactly a chance to beat the All Blacks. When was the last time Wales beat the All Blacks? Never, forever ago, 70s. So I mean, and like absolutely, they're good enough on their day to give them a game. So you would like to see Wales getting to that level where they are just intense. And the intensity is huge, spoiling everything, getting hands and everything.
What'll the response to the Haka be this time? We've had a V, we've had Fields of Athenry. What are the Welsh going to bring?
Bread of
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably Delilah. I don't know. It could be anything.
Would be fantastic.
That would be. I would love that. The Welsh.
That would be fantastic. But I don't think so.
No.
I think they'll just be tit for tat, easy peasy Haka. I do worry for Wales in terms of what the All Blacks are going to bring on offense. I worried for England too. I mean, the All Blacks have been a tough enough team to get a read on in terms of signing off on where this All Black team were and are. You know, definitely, I think the cycle matters. I think the fact that they had reverted to type for so long, and then they did seem to find something, but really late in the game. Like again, they went back to playing a more flair-driven, less Crusaders-esque, more old-school All Blacks. Will throw the ball around, will play to our instincts game in about Bledisloe 2.
Bledisloe 2 was kind of the first little look we had at
it. So I mean, 2 games out from the World Cup. And then they did look good in the pool stages. They did do for the Boks with a bit of heads-up footy. They are still a great team. But a team that was so much more intelligent and sophisticated and so much further down the track in terms of coaching, which is a weird one for you because Steve Hanson's been there longer. Steve Hansen doesn't come out looking great, to be honest with you.
Maybe not. Like there's, as we said last week, there will be an inquest, and it's probably post this game that more of that will happen because they're not delighted. But we've probably been saying over the course of the 4 years and in advance of the tournament that it was the most open World Cup has been that we can remember, and a large part of that is due to the rising standards of pretty much all the Tier 1 nations, but also at the expense of probably the drop-off of where the All Blacks were as far as dominance and supremacy and really pioneering and driving the game forward, which is what that 2015 team were doing. And it still speaks to their credit that even if in those 4 years we felt like we've seen them dwindling, they're still a semi-final team.
I know.
You know?
They're great. They're
phenomenal.
graded on a different bar to everybody. But I mean, that 2015 team had such memory in the bank of, like, if you think of the Ireland game in 2013, Australia then in 2014,
what do you think of even
South Africa in 2013,
what do you think of
coming from behind,
but even with their back row combination that was tried and true and going to the World Cup and ready for it, centres as well. You had Nonu and Conrad Smith, and then Nonu and Sonny Bill.
It's not even just personnel. That isn't improved personnel. But it's just that memory in the bank of playing a certain way and finding a way to dig out wins from impossible situations.
Which they did all the time.
Which that team just used to do as a matter of routine. Almost to the point where you're like, did they just do this for a challenge? They just ship massive leads just to come back and win the game, which they used to just always do. Whereas this team actually, in terms of credit in the bank, you know, they had that drawn Lions series. They were beaten by the Boks last year. They have just tightened up. They were beaten by Ireland, obviously, last year. They just tightened up and played a more fundamentals Crusaders-esque type of game. And as impressive as the Crusaders are, there are a lot of big boys in the Test arena messing about. Like that 16-all draw against the Boks in the Rugby Championship, and then they found something, but it felt and feels like it's in its infancy in terms of development, which is a weird one to be. Just the throwing the ball aspect of it. It feels very much like
Even the Barrett Moanga axis, it's a relatively young one. It could be brilliant in a couple of years' time. Like I still believe that's an awesome, and it was their best option, especially with the absence of Damien McKenzie. Yeah. But yeah, like you're right. It's in terms of development, it hasn't been a full cycle of it. It's been not far from, and they've been a bit up and down in terms of their own identity as a team, which is
and so it's hard to know. Like I look at that personnel that's going to play in this game: Scott Barrett and Brodie Retallick and Den Coles and Kieran Reid in his last game, and he's been in great form. I actually can't remember if they're going for Aaron Smith or TJ Perenara. I think it's Aaron, but whoever it is, they're awesome. Yeah. And then you've got Richie Moore, Ben Smith. Ben Smith going to be going away. This is his last All Black outing as well, and what a legend of the game as well for him. I hope he gets a rapturous applause if he gets. I hope he gets a couple of tries to see it all out. He's a great player. But I mean, all of these guys, you think looking at them that if they can click, if they can just get outside the Welsh, if they can get runners around the corner, get the blindside winger like Rico Ioane coming off the edge, attacking the shoulder of Jonathan Davis, linking up. That's just a dangerous picture. If they can get quick ball and just play to their strengths, they're just talent-wise on a different level.
For sure.
But I just don't know. It's hard to know what kind of mindset both sides are going to be in, but the superficial instinct that I have is that the All Blacks will edge it.
I think so.
Not even edge it. I think the All Blacks will run away with it. I don't know. But maybe not. Maybe not. Wales definitely. If Wales rise to it and spoil, and the All Blacks are a little off it, you never know.
I hope they're passive in defence. I hope for a good game. They're a little disjointed in the backfield, but I don't think they will. I don't think Ben Smith coming in actually weakens that aspect. So those little kicks in behind will be between Bowden and Ben Smith. There's the kicking game. There's no Gareth Davis. There's no Dan Bigger. There's no Liam Williams. Yeah. They've picked a team to run the ball. They have.
They're not going to be kicking
run the ball against the All Blacks.
Yeah,
which is, to be fair, creditable. But
it's exactly what you should do in this third place playoff. But I just don't know how well it bodes for them.
Yeah, I think it could look like a shootout, and I think the All Blacks will win a shootout.
Yeah.
That's my instinct, unless it chucks it down or something, and
unless Alan Wynne-Jones and Tipperick pull off hell of a performance together. The spoiling duo are the only spanner you could throw into those works.
Yeah,
but outside of that, I think All Blacks all day.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning that way as well. Apologies to our Welsh subs who may be thinking, "Hey, I know, don't be."
You're always writing us off.
We were not writing you off. We were giving you the fair shake last week, but I fear I always. Whenever the All Blacks lose, I just double down and think they're winning their next game and winning it pretty well. And it doesn't even matter who they're playing against. It just tends to happen that way.
Remember when they got beat by the last time they lost a game, they got hammered by Australia. Came back the next week and
absolutely massacred them with viciousness that we hadn't actually seen all year from them. So we may see a bit of that touch of that bite again, perhaps.
I'm just hoping for a fun game, for a good game. It's not obviously that big a deal.
No, but it is a good curtain raiser. It's a Friday game. Yeah. Enjoy it.
I hope that they're not two teams like burst balloons. I hope they go out and have fun.
For sure.
That said, they are both going to be gutted. And it isn't the big game.
No, it isn't. We'll move on to that now, I suppose, because without any further ado, we'll move on to the final. The World Cup Final for 2019 in Japan, in Yokohama International Stadium, which is a fantastic venue. We have England versus the Springboks.
Repeat of 07.
Repeat of 07, indeed. Refereed by, has to be mentioned, Jerome Garces.
Yeah,
with Ben Skeen in the TMO, Roman Poit on the sideline, and someone else I can't remember. But
it goes to show World Rugby were just full of shite when they came out that first
week. Looking at
when they came out that first weekend and started giving out about the refs.
And then seemed to throw Angus Gardner under the bus, who by our estimations was actually doing probably one of the better jobs himself, and Wayne Barnes were probably the two standout performers amongst the referees. Nick Berry doing well as well. Yeah, Jerome Garces getting the final is absolutely criminal by our estimations.
Yeah, I mean, if performance means anything, he shouldn't have the final. He hasn't been doing a good job. He's been all over the place. His interpretation is wild at both breakdown and scrum time. So whatever. Hopefully he won't be determinative.
Hopefully not. I know our South African fans are not huge Jerome Garces.
I did see a funny tweet, which is correct, saying there is one of two things that could happen this weekend. Either the Springboks win the World Cup, or every South African rugby fan is going to be ranting and raving on Twitter and YouTube about the French refs.
Yeah, well, it's possible we can have both. But yeah, no, it's definitely a factor. It's not nice to mention it at the top of the game because there's an absolutely wonderful game of rugby to happen, but it is.
And we're flagging it to not mention it again.
Indeed, essentially. But yeah, Saturday, 9 a.m. England v Springboks kicks off. And it's an absolute gem. 9 a.m. Irish time.
It is.
And it's a gem of a game. We have Rugby Championship winners for the first time in 10 years, South Africa, Springboks, who we were saying were probably the form team coming into the comp, but England were putting on a serious vein of form coming into it as well, and they've been awesome. They've just slain the mighty All Blacks. They're coming for the Springboks next. They've been working their way through the Rugby Championship.
Yeah, in the knockouts. Yeah. In the knockouts, they truly have.
Yeah.
And actually, they did Argentina.
They did Argentina. So this is for a Rugby Championship slam.
They didn't play a single Six Nations team the whole way through. That's gas.
Because they missed their French game.
That is gas. England. Yeah, it's been. It's an interesting one, as I flagged earlier in the game. It's two young, hungry sides. There's no sense of age to them in terms of the team development. Both coaches are staying on. Like, I think the South African team can go higher. I think this England under Eddie Jones is at its peak. Probably. It's as good as it can get. Razzie's, he was talking about implementing another defensive system and switching between. Like, he's 2 years in, so he's had to do a rushed job. But
a job for sure. And he's based that job off defense. And another colour of this game is the fact that it's probably the most effective defense we've seen at the World Cup versus the most devastating offense. Yeah,
it's the most sophisticated, modern, brilliant offense that we may have ever seen.
Yeah,
against certainly, like, on the inside channels, just the ferocity of the forward pack, and then in the centres, the best centre partnership defensively I've ever seen in my life. In Dale Indy and and obviously just the two biggest packs and best packs in
probably
the
two biggest teams in the game.
Yeah, I wonder, like, there might be a case
the Georgians
for outlining pre-tournament who actually are the two best packs, and putting a lot of money on those boys making the final.
There's a truth to the forwards win games comment. It's a trope for a reason.
That's it. There's good offense and defense in this as well, but the packs are both far and away have been the best in the tournament.
This is it, which is why it'll be an interesting picture, because we've never seen either of these packs meet a pack like the other one. So there's potential for both of them to be shocked by that physicality that they're not used to being met head on with. They could smash into each other and there'd be no give.
In terms of history, there are some records to be broken this weekend.
Yeah.
No side has ever won the Rugby Championship or the Tri Nations and gone on to win the World Cup. No side has ever lost a pool match and gone on to win the World Cup.
Yeah.
But no South African team has ever lost a World Cup final.
Also, all of these are records that could be
one of them will be
broken for sure.
At least one.
Also, in terms of history, I think they've played, or England have been to 3 World Cup finals. Yeah. 2 against Australia, 1 against the Boks. They've won 1, lost 2. The Boks have never lost a final. They've been 2-0 so far. Yeah. It's a fantastic record. The last time they played, who came out on top?
The last time England and South Africa played.
Yeah.
So they were, since Razzie's taken over, it's 2-2.
Yeah.
So the Boks got the opening 2 in the series in June, and then the English won the dead rubber third match where it was a bit of change personnel on both sides. Then they played last November in Twickenham, where Dale Indy, as the English May flag, was running riot through them for the whole game.
Yes, he was.
But it was sort of a bit of a mad game. It was shoulder gate, as you'll recall, from Owen Farrell. I recall
that too. Yes,
and England got a late kick to win it, but it had a sort of a weird atmosphere. Like, it didn't feel like, it felt a bit more like a kickabout.
It did. I mean, you can't really compare those either November or June test
both
things
of these
to a World
teams
Cup final.
have built so much since those meetings that this is going to take a whole new different picture.
For sure.
England have been so good this whole tournament. Their offense has been...
It's hard to overlook them. I think in most people's eyes they are favourites for this, just based on that showing, but it's tight. Like, England, if you're talking traditions and you're talking history, England struggled with the Boks. They struggle because they want to play that physical bullying game, and they always do. And the Boks are one team that can match that, can meet it, match it, and sometimes outdo it. And that cannot unsettle what is a purring English offense, an English team that are playing with such pomp, such confidence, and after slaying the mighty All Blacks, they'll be feeling very, very good about their chances.
Yeah, one of the things that they've been doing is playing the game on their own terms.
Yes.
From the very opening restart. I mean, I think if they're winning the toss, they're choosing to kick off.
Yeah.
Such has been the prominence of what they've been doing off those restart balls.
Yeah.
They've been kicking deep against both Australia and New Zealand, kicking deep, pinning that opposition back, forcing a tough exit, setting up an offensive line out which they've pre-planned what they're
usually scoring 9 phases later.
At the beginning of these games, they just get off to a flyer. They have a plan, and they get off to a flyer from a set piece. Yeah. That has been very much their picture. We are frustratingly shooting this on Wednesday evenings, so we don't actually have the teams, which will be announced by the time this is out Thursday morning.
For sure.
But one of the interesting selection dynamics is what they're going to choose to do in the centres. If they're going to go for Ford Farrell and stick with that, or if they are going to bring Slade back in.
Because one thing they did they did play Slade for the quarterfinal, and the rationale we thought, which I think they cited as well, Karevi was in that 12 channel. And so they put Manu into that 12 channel to kind of nullify the Karevi threat, but also allow Slade wider to give them another kicking option, which is a different way of going, a different layout to the back line.
I thought that was a Karevi based decision, but there's rationale for both of them, because Del Indy has been brilliant this tournament. He has been causing teams handfuls, and he will fancy running in that gap between Faz and Farrell. Neither of those guys really leading the defensive line, although Farrell does have a set of balls on him and makes tackles.
He does throw himself in there,
but then on the other side of it, when England have the ball, there's probably a better argument for using Tuolangi to try and sit down. Phone's making noises. But there's probably a good argument for using Manu Tuolangi running those short lines and running into Am, maybe off a carry game straight up, trying to just suck him in and get him out of the defensive line, because access to the wide channels comes from beating Am.
It does.
And that's what you got to do. You got to sit that guy down. You got to focus him on something else.
Exactly.
And Am is actually super clever. He's very, very disciplined at not biting in on his inside shoulder.
Committing to contact.
He's a great inside guy in Delindi on his inside. He's just got a guy who's going to make tackles for days. And so he gets out of the line, he shuffles guys into Delindi and makes sure that the outside isn't got. And then when he has a chance to wrap you up, he'll do it. So for England beating him, Tuolagi at 13, I'd probably like a little more than anything. Just getting him to sit down, but then obviously there's that defensive concern if you do that.
It's a tough toss-up. I don't know. They may persist with Ford Farrell just because they did so well for the All Blacks. They'll try and play their game again. And you're right in saying they have been playing it on their own terms. And I think their own terms, they do prefer to have Ford Farrell in there. They like to have that wide option. It gives them a good width and multiple shapes. Like you saw it in the first... I think it was the first offensive set they had in the game against the All Blacks last week, where at one point they had a ruck on the right hand side, and it was just a lovely wide shot that illustrates that absolutely stellar England attacking shape, where there were around 4 pods stretched all across the line, and a winger out the other side with a fullback, and you're just like, what a formidable sight of massive runners, massive men, and pace and quick ball, and such deceptions. Like Am has, you're right, been displaying unreal intellect on the other side of the ball and snuffing out offences, but he'll never have come across a shape like this before. It's so deceptive, and they're so big, like you can't ignore them.
That's the thing, and the key is to put a bit of footwork on the narrow carries, win those collisions, get quick ball, don't let the box get in on you, don't let the box wrap you up. Move it quickly and stand just that little bit deeper. I think Japan showed that even in the bits that they got off against the box.
In that channel, just being a bit deep.
You got to be that bit deeper when you're playing the box, and that also opens up the kicking option, because that is a real part of their game as well. When they can get on those kicks in behind, if Mapimpi is coming up flat, getting in
LaRue is a bit ropey. They will fancy testing LaRue. Faz will definitely fancy testing.
They mix it up, man. They mix it up. They probe everywhere, England. But they do like to play these things at their own terms, and they do like to own, more than anything else, I think they like to own the territory game.
They really do.
They don't like playing in their own half. They love spending large parts of the game in the opponent's half.
Indeed.
And that's the kind of picture that they're going to be trying to paint with the ball, moving the box around, attacking that space when it's there, trying to get outside Am is a key picture, making sure that they're on top of those collisions against that marauding bot pack, but then also when that back three are shooting up, probing for weaknesses under the bomb, but kicking it deep, sitting, backing the D.
It is a more territory based game. Like they actually, like they're a team that, it's not that they even prefer attacking or defending, they don't mind doing either, but they like to control where the ball is and where they're playing that game, whether they have it or not. They like it to be in the opposition half and them exerting the pressure, forcing the errors out of them, because they do feed off them. And they also, when they're playing that way, when they have that control, their discipline is in check. They don't struggle with that. It is a traditional weak point for them, but that's only when they get rocked off their thing and they cede control of the game.
It's been a total reset for England. It's been just a perfect little innovation to really focus the minds, because the question was there is like, when this English team goes off balance and goes off the rails, they seem to just not be able to go back on again. And so what Eddie Jones has done is discipline them to the nth degree of restarts.
Yes.
So if you ship a try, we know exactly what we're doing down restarts. Everything resets, and we're doing this. He has drilled it into them.
Yeah.
And that's been perfect.
And there's nothing like a clear idea to focus the mind. Yeah. Particularly in athletic mind, in a fever pitch moment, it's a good thing to have that reset mode. And they do. They've displayed that all tournament, and it's been a good sign of growth in really the last year. Less than, which is great.
Yeah. That said, the English offense is at its best when it's quick.
Definitely.
It needs to be quick. They get this lovely tempo to them when it's all flowy, and it can't be overstated how marauding that Bok defence is when it's at its best. I mean, it's not just it's the inside back row forwards. It's really the back five of that scrum are so ferocious and dynamic and physical. So England are going to have to win those collisions. Like I say, bit of variation, bit of clever shape and deception, picking the right options, your classic English offense stuff, attacking weak soft shoulders, presenting the ball well, and making sure it stays quick. I mean, I think a lot of this game is going to be determined by what happens when England have the ball. The Boks love their defence, England love their offence. Like, whether
they will smash into each other in that capacity.
It's the curious picture. It really is.
It is.
But when the Boks have the ball, England have a job to do as well.
Definitely.
Like, there's been a lot of talk about the Boks can't attack and the Boks can't attack. I mean, the Boks, like, it is in recent memory the Boks cutting them to ribbons.
That's true.
In South Africa. Last summer. Now I know England have changed a lot since then.
And
they really
South Africa probably aren't as hot on offense as they were in that iteration.
But that said, they can move the ball. They can absolutely move the ball.
They have some weapons in the wings.
Yeah, if they can just get that faff rhythm going, it becomes a much more difficult picture for you. And I tell you, Johnny May has his hands full with Ches and Colby. They're now fit Ches and Colby, because one-on-one, that's always an option.
The guy will turn anyone, any man. He will turn them in a phone booth. And a job will have to be done in the centres. They did an excellent job of cutting off that outside channel against the All Blacks.
They did
bring similar line speed and pressure, but you can only do that off. You can only do that off dominant hits again. Yeah. So much will come. Like when they're with the ball, they want to win collisions to increase the speed. Yeah. When they don't have the ball, they want to win collisions to slow down that tempo and force kicks out of this Boks team. Get the ball back.
I wonder if they might shift Tuilagi in a bit. Like against the All Blacks, there was this great picture when the All Blacks got a couple of momentum driving plays, and then Tuilagi shot out and shut down the outside, and Moanga trucked it up, and then they stole it. Yeah, because I tell you, their jackal game is lethal.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of turnovers against the All Blacks. The amount of turnovers. I think it was like 19.
They are elite.
I think it was 19 turnovers in the game against the All Blacks.
Yeah.
Just incredible.
Yeah.
But the Boks are more game for that. Like, if you shoot on the outside and force them inside,
that's kind of where they want to go anyway.
Yeah, like,
there's more of a sense that it's not a sense of trapping them in the contact.
Yeah,
like, they do like the contact.
They do.
Even Pollard, their 10, likes the contact. Probably a bit more than a 10 should.
Yeah,
like he is probably not as advised to go.
Ches and Colby is the only one who actively avoids
contact. Yes, but Villy does somewhat too. As well, to be fair, he'll probably kick it away from the contact more often, sometimes loosely. But yeah, like it's less of a smothering tactic against the Boks, because they will reset with plays off 9, and like you say, that faff tempo of big runners, and you need to be game for chopping them. They probably need to adjust their technique and go a little lower. Like they were upright and dominant in their hits against the All Blacks.
Underhill is ferocious. Underhill got some ferocious tackles off, but he's not picking up Eben Etzebeth and throwing him on the dirt.
Yeah,
I like Underhill is one of my favorite players right now. He's not going to pick I say right now, he won't pick Eben Etzebeth.
He might do.
He won't pick Eben Etzebeth up and throw him on the dirt. Yeah. So you got it like the Welsh would, chop low, but then get in on the ball, make it slow, make it stymieing. And if they can win those contacts, if they can slow everything up, then you force the Boks to kick loosely.
You do.
And that's like the Boks kicking game is a lot better when it's done on the Boks terms, like anyone's team kicking game. If they can get a bit of go forward, if they can see Watson shoot up, that's kind of the picture that they're looking for. Get it in deep over their head, giving a little bit of their own medicine. But if they're going backwards off a few contacts, they will kind of go, ugh, this attack isn't working, I'd rather defend and just bomb the ball away.
Which is unique to them in many ways. Like they really do like hitting people either way, and if they lose a few contacts with the ball, well, then we'll try and win a few without.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. But that's what England are trying to force when the Boks have the ball. Kick it away, by all means.
Yes.
So that's definitely the English picture. They do have to be alert to those high balls. Watson does have to be alert to the kicks that are going to be coming in over his head.
Yeah.
Not getting trapped by that. But there's one man we haven't mentioned who is so key to it all for England is Maro Itoje.
Yeah,
the best player in the world.
I would agree. He's so good. He's
Yeah.
like, as we said, he's an 80-minute man, but not just that. He's like an all-tournament 80-minute man. He will just do 80 minutes.
He's
week after week after week.
An incredibly freakish athlete and a super smart operator.
Yeah, and a playmaker.
Super smart operator. Yeah, he makes crucial plays at crucial times, time and time again. Yeah. He's the guy who's going to get the big steals and the big jackals, and that is one of the funnest dynamics. Is whether the Boks have the ball or England have the ball, is Maro Itoje's ability to stymie what the Boks are doing. Yes. And I think we're going to get a good picture of that at maul time off set piece and at line out time. Is anyone going to be
able to spoil that maul? The Springbok maul is fearsome. Remember that 50-meter maul against the Japanese, who were powerless to stop
beautiful things in the whole tournament. Yeah. But one of the other most beautiful things in the whole tournament was Maro Itoje front crawling his way through the whole maul, grabbing the ball, and Aaron Smith trying to grab it off him and going flying back. Because he just wasn't getting it off him. And that is just in terms of knowing what's going to happen, I don't. But it's a really, really high level matchup. It is worthy of a World Cup final.
And it will be decided around the fringes, in the trenches and on the fringes. Like as much as you'd like to talk Billy LaRue or Elliot Daly on the other side, or Watson on one wing, Colby on the other, I really think it's not decided there. These are two massive teams, massive packs who are going to run into each other on either side of the ball. And it's so much is going to be dictated by who dominates that, or if anyone does. Because England, we haven't really seen all tournament some team knock them off their rhythm. When they're in rhythm, they're near unstoppable. But if they're knocked off it, what happens then? And we'll pivot on to one thing that will be crucial is the set piece. Yeah. That, like, as illustrative of the fact that it will be decided by the forwards who do win this game, the set piece is going to be vital for that. And at scrum time, we have two intense, aggressive scrums in both the England scrum, which has been awesome all tournament, imperious really, and the Boks scrum that has been like the Boks 2 scrums, or nearly 2 scrums, because they with their 6-2 split, they're bringing on a world-class scrum off the bench too.
Very, very tough to call.
Yeah. Both will be going for aggressive.
Maybe it's my own bias showing, but Beeston to where it doesn't lose scrums.
But Sinclair's a tough man.
He is.
But all of those English Jamie George is a big ferocious.
It's one area beyond any other when the elite are at it that I like experience.
Yeah.
And I like Beeston to where
in there. You do. Well, how could you not? But like
that guy can scrummage.
Yes, he can.
And he is they're delivering big scrums in big moments.
They are
consistently.
Yeah. They have such heft in the whole pack as well. Like their engine room is providing such grunt from behind. And but similarly with England, they are two colossal scrums meeting, and I tell you what, don't scrum for parity. Neither of them.
No, neither of them scrum for parity. But France, like Lou said, I like Costington is super aggressive. He's also super strong.
Yeah.
So if he can get low, like if he can have the discipline to have the respect of Beeston Tuera, because if he's trying to drive him into the dirt, I suspect he's going upward.
Possibly,
he's getting driven up. Like Beast is too clever.
Yeah, he's seen more than Beast. That's one thing that is valuable.
The other thing that Beast is a deadlifting freak. Yeah. Like he might be the strongest prop in the world. I mean, we've seen the footage of the just holding the guy up.
Oh yeah, as he's pivoting around. Yeah,
he is freaky strong. He is, I don't know if Carl Sinclair is shoving him into the dirt that easily.
No.
So yeah, I suspect that's just going to be a bad picture for Kyle. But if he can lock it down, he is strong enough to lock down a scrum.
Yes.
And then on the other side, you have Mako Vunipola, who is a phenomenal scrummager, against Frans Malherbe, who is okay. He's not.
He's a very strong scrummager.
He's a very strong scrummager. He's a very big unit. Mm-hmm. But Mako Vunipola is one of the best loose head scrummagers out there.
Yeah.
So that's a fun picture as well. And in terms of how it's going to go, your guess is as good as mine.
It's true. But it's definitely worth watching, and it definitely will be determinative.
Yeah.
If a team gets an edge in that area at all, that could be the winning of the game.
Like you don't like to see
exactly.
it. The Boks would not like to be losing scrums.
And similarly, the English should be seeing a bit of red if they're going their scrums going down or backwards.
That's it.
That's emasculating.
One thing I do like is the Bok bench scrum.
Well, this is it. Like you're talking Mako Vunipola, the Boks are rolling out their first choice Saracen off the bench in Vincent Koch. Yeah. And it's like
Vincent Koch and Stephen Kitsoff are super aggressive, super good scrummagers. And as good as Joe Marler is,
And Dan Cole on the other side.
It is a Harlequin against a Saracen to go to Premiership.
Indeed.
Is that matchup between Marler and Koch. So, yeah, there's definitely that. I think the Bok bench, I think we're going to be going back to that in terms of in the forward pack, the Bok bench.
Yeah, so it means the last 20 minutes. And if England can have a lead at that time, it may not be as impactful, but if the game's in the balance and that Bok bench comes rolling on...
Yeah, that's why George Cruz's performance is going to be so massive. I mean, they're keeping him on the bench despite him being probably good for a start, just for that explosive presence. And
some of that line-out spoiling, in terms of spoiling the maul. He's actually very technical at maul time. I love his work in that area too. But Laws has been excellent.
Do you see anybody, like, I think the big question is whether the likes of, I don't know what the Boks are going to do in terms of their starting locks. I get the suspicion, I've just heard whispers that they might be bringing Snyman in for Lou Diager, but they will still be going for, I dare say, their 6-2 split.
Yes.
So bring it rolling on all that forward heft off the bench towards the end of the game. But I think the big dynamics are who can spoil each other's maul, who can make it messy at line out time. But I don't really see either side being disrupted. They're on their own ball in terms of actually securing possession.
I just think line out time.
I just think they're too imperious.
It's whether they can spoil the maul that comes thereafter. Although Snyman off the bench is one for pilfering a few line outs. Itoje, we know he has all the plays in him, and one of them is a line out steal. He can definitely do that. But it would require a bit of sloppiness on the other team's part, which we just haven't really seen all tournament long from either of them. They've been efficient at line out time throughout. Restart, however, is an edge I give to the English.
Restart has been so good. Restart has been the English best set piece. They're kicking off deep and forcing sides to exit and setting up an offense.
And then conversely, dealing with their fielding and exiting perfectly off opposition restarts as well, which is it's a double-edged sword. And the Springboks, we flagged it last week. It's like their one lingering hangover from the previous years. Occasionally caught napping at restart.
That's it. We have not seen that this tournament.
We have not seen it this tournament, but they haven't been tested the way England have been testing people off restarts.
Well, so we know what England are going to do. They're going to hurl it deep. They're going to fly out the line. They're going to pin the opposition to the corner. They're going to hope to get a faf box kick, which will lead to a line out. Yes. And I actually think they're going to get that. Yeah. They're going to get everything that they want out of that.
I think they're going to kick it left to Faf's unfair. He's right-footed, isn't he? Faf. Or is he left-footed?
I think Faf might be left-footed.
Is he left-footed? Well, then that would have them kicking to the right. They basically kick it to the wrong side for your box kick and force you in that corner accurately, and then try and make you exit. And
and I think that's going to work. I think they're going to get their offensive line out. I think the big difference maker is that the Boks like to defend a lot more than England and than Australia and New Zealand do. Yes. So they might be a little more game for stopping what the English are bringing after that than either of their Southern Hemisphere counterparts. But the English restart game has been imperious. What I think, though, on the other side of the ball is that the Boks are of a similar mould. That if it strikes a bell for them, Pollard's a beautiful kicker of a ball. They should do the exact same thing. I mean, everybody just try, but they should no goofy all black. We're trying to retain possession and we're kicking it 10 yards. We're kicking it high and deep into the very corner of the pitch.
And backing Khaleesi to be the first man there to smash
Khaleesi, Mapimpi, but then the whole pack. Are driving up after them. And then England, are you going to run it out of your own line against our defence? No, you're not. You're going to kick it right back to us.
And then we have an offensive line.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be the picture. Deep kicks off restarts with big marauding packs chasing them. I think both sides are going to fancy that, liking their defence. Yeah. And neither side is going to be too game for breaking out from their own 22.
Probably not.
The question is just
England would be the more likely to do that, or off a loose kick, maybe Cheslin Colby or something. But
Pollard crossfield kick from his own line, that would be something.
That would be fun. But I think it unlikely. I think that in a winning scenario, if a team is two or three scores up, maybe you start seeing some of that. But probably again not, because the finals tend to be tighter affairs than all that. So exit time will be crucial, and restart similarly.
Yeah, and just the accuracy of the initial kick from the fly half is important.
That's one thing that Faz have been pinned with.
It's almost, you almost don't even mention it, because it's just, of course he's going to be accurate at his own Farrell.
Yeah, but it is.
It's hard to overstate how tough a skill it is to do what Farrell has been doing consistently off restarts. The height and accuracy of the drop goals. I mean, you see guys missing drop goals in terms of for scoring efforts wildly. Professionals, guys who are paid to do it, missing them wildly from bang in front 20 metres out. Yeah. And Farrell is pinging them 45 metres at an angle with perfect
landing in the tram lines.
He's been just phenomenal. and you would need Pollard to replicate something like that. Although he does have a drop goal game in him as well.
He definitely does. Yeah.
From the Bok perspective, when the Boks have the ball, from against this English D,
what do? Well, it starts as so often with the Springboks with big runners off Faf and Pollard. Big men trying to get quick ball by winning massive collisions. It's a simple enough game. Some people accuse it of being a bit of a boring game, but I disagree. I think it's play to your strengths, and their strengths are strength, and they love strength combined with speed with a little bit of deception. They can't be just like a bit telegraphed and popping it up and running into two Englishmen. They're going to lose.
If they can sit down a defence, first of all, they have a few different options in terms of Faf picking it, and especially if the Boks can get good offensive breakdown working for them, giving Faf some clean ball, because obviously that is your mission 1, 2, and 3 against Curry and Underhill. The 19
and Mako, and all of
the
them
19 turnover men, that England team.
Indeed.
So the Boks minding the pill is crucial. But if they can do that and generate that quick ball, then you do see that Faf picture of him just roaming a little bit around the fringes, picking the right guy. And then actually what you do see is a front line of Bok forwards in a pod off Faf, and Faf with the option to whip it in behind those guys to Pollard. And when you get that picture, Pollard is not at all averse to whipping it back across then to Leroux, or if Leroux's dropped, which I think he should be, but he won't be, for Francois staying at fullback, whoever's going to be that separate second distributor. I promise you, they are not going to be afraid to go whip, or maybe off the second and third plays, whipped pass to Pollard, whipped pass out to second distributor, whip pass out to Colby, because they're just going to matchup.
That's what they're looking for as the matchup, and it requires all of those other things falling into place. They need those 2 or 3 or 4 big collisions off Faf, or even off Pollard. If it comes out and it's not quite on, he'll ship it on to Dialinde, who's like a loose forward anyway. He's there's security in knowing that he's there, because if it's not on the pullback pass, you can give it to him, and he will fancy his chance of trucking up. But then similarly, Pollard, if he's smuggled or surrounded, he will truck it up as if he were a 12.
They're going to use Dialinde in so many different ways. They're going to use him to. If George Ford is a 10, they're going to be. I'd be sending Dialinde
the whole day.
Dialinde / Dwayne Vermeulen. Yeah. That said, the English may be hiding Ford, but hiding Ford might not be the most profitable thing either, because then all of a sudden he's going to have to cover Cheslin Colby. But the big dramatic question mark is what is going to happen when Etzebeth runs into the English defence, and is he going to just do what he has been doing and go forward and win a contact and drive that extra bit?
Or is he going to have Curry low and a Toji high and...
I mean, that's it's tough to say. You'd like to think that the Boks are going to put a bit more deception, a bit more footwork into what they're doing, having Faf choose from a number of different options, getting maybe Dwayne Vermeulen and Etzebeth running in different directions. One of the things that I love so much about what England do is that Billy Vunipola and one way, a Toji the other way, and then Sinclair gets the ball and you're just bewildered. That's why the English offense is so damn good. And you need Faf bringing a bit of that Faz distribution to the game from in those narrow areas for sure. But essentially this is a physical contest, and while it does involve a bit of deception,
the collision zone,
it's massive.
Look at the first 20 minutes and look at the collisions, not just hits, collisions that are going to be happening, because they will be ferocious, and I'm sure there will be wins and losses on either side in terms of that. There will be dominant hits on either side with either side of the ball.
That's what we talked about last week, who's going to get on top of the kicking game. That's going to decide it. I know the kicking game was between South Africa and Wales was stalemated, and then it became a stalemate. And you could see something like that here, where each side is getting their own plays off. Penalties are coming either way, and it's taken along without any side being dominant, which is, I guess, what you really want. And then it becomes about who's going to make the winning play. Where your Tojis and the like come into it.
Well, this is it.
And then the other thing that the Boks with the ball that is imperative and a huge part of their identity is just that kicking game. Can they paint the picture of the Faf box kick? I don't love. I think they're ready. I think they're ready for it. I think referees aren't reffing the block.
No,
so the Cheslin Colby chase is just useless because he's so wee, and the English are just allowed to push him. So he's never getting there ever. So the contestable box kick is just out of the window.
And I also even in the instance that they get there, the English have been really good under the high ball this year. They've been really good.
Colby is the Boks' best guy under the high ball. And he is opposite Johnny May, who's been phenomenal.
Yeah, and he's taller than him. He's just, there's a vertically challenged aspect to that game, and the Boks aren't the tallest back three in the world anyway. They're not really collectively a high ball expert back three.
I think if you're catching,
they need to adjust their approach a little.
If you're catching that back three with your kicking game, it's not going to be with a fat box kick. No. You're going to catch maybe the little pendulum between Elliot Daly and Anthony Watson.
That's
where I would see
the weakest. Yeah, the grasp between those two.
Yeah, I don't know
the
that
area
their
for
instincts.
Pollard, not Faf. I think to be aiming for.
Yes, Pollard or Franz Steyn if he gets a run out, which I think his form deserves. But I think absolutely deep kicks down into that right corner. You gotta give England something territory wise. Like this is one thing that Australia and New Zealand just fell into the trap of not fighting back with a bit of territory game of their own.
Yeah.
Neither side had a fucking clue how to deal with what England were bringing, and they were both baffled and powerless when presented with the game just being in their own half for the whole damn thing. Yeah. So I think from the box perspective, you got to fight fire with fire a little bit. You got to be accurate with your kicking.
Like you said with deep. The restarts, go deep. Similarly in the multi-phase, if you're exiting, take it through a few phases by all means, but try and find grass. Because Pollard has a huge boot. South Africans in general have quite a ridiculous relationship with kicking a ball, where they seem to have 10 yards on average over the rest of the world. Use that. Try and kick yourselves into the right areas, because that will frustrate England. If you can couple that with winning a few contacts on either side of the ball, asking a few questions with both around the fringes but in the centres too, running off Pollard.
And then obviously that set piece, scrums and mauls.
It's very much it's simple Springbok rugby. I love how Razzie's brought it back and dialed it all, because there was a lot of nonsense going on before he got there, and it's much more clear and focused. But this is the biggest test and the biggest game on the biggest stage for them, and it's whether they can actually implement that. Can they force that on this England team? Remains to be seen. And then when they're defending, can they impose themselves like they've been doing?
Defence is the biggest thing. Yeah, defence is the biggest thing. Like if you want to look back at your old history, 1995 Rugby World Cup Final, the whole narrative of that whole bloody tournament was Jonah Lomu this, Jonah Lomu that, and rightly so. He was Jonah fucking Lomu. The box tackled him out of the game and won the World Cup. Yeah. And if that's not a lesson in terms of how what the Bok mentality is in these games, I don't know what is. Yeah. For the Bok defence, the equation is simple. It's slow England down. I mean, what they did against Japan in both of those games, like you saw the difference between like a confident offensive team playing very pretty rugby, and then all of a sudden when they're not allowed to do what they want to do, it's just a very different picture. And while the Japanese are so wee that it is a different context, where Ebenezer is just hugging a guy and picking him up and just dragging backwards. But it is that sense of you're not going to be able to get your clean ball Ben Youngs, because all of a sudden your guy's going backwards. Courtney Law is going marauding into contacts, but he's being met by the likes of Peter Steph du Toit, getting driven backwards into the dirt. Like Box wrapping the ball and driving forward, getting that leg drive going, that powerful, almost wrestling-esque defence that they can get. That does the contacts almost happen in slow motion, where they initially hit a guy, stop him, drive him, deck him, and the whole offense is stopped and slowed. And that is your plan.
That's how like we've seen it. Wales have done it twice to England this year. And this England team do get upset when that ball gets slowed up, stuffed, when they get caught in choke tackles. Billy V getting wrapped up because he's trying to get the leg drive and get the hands free, but then suddenly the hand isn't free, the ball's wrapped up, and down you go. The Boks feel well placed to implement some of those plays, and they should be trying for them, and they will be trying for them. And then even with that 6-2 split, the bench will have a part to play. We haven't even mentioned off the bench bringing Francois Lowe to come in and again target that ball.
Yeah, Francois Lowe is one of the best players out there right now.
Indeed, and
he's like his steal game is incredible. He's also got that fun dynamic going on where Underhill is his understudy. I definitely think if it gets tight, I give advantage Box just for that bench. Like as good as the
if it's tight and slow. That's a Bok game more than an English game, because the English, like they're big and physical and want to be dominant, but they want to be quick. They generally want to be quicker than this Bok team. This Bok team are quite comfortable when the game gets slow, and that's what they're trying to do on defense, is to try and influence that.
So mission 1 is slow it down. Mission 2 is deal with the deception.
And that's Am's purview really more than a lot of it, because when it gets wider, that's where the deception really comes in.
To be honest with you, it's Am and Delindi. They've been working as an axis this year in terms of, and they've been getting narrow when they need to get narrow, and they've been getting wide when they need to get wide. They've been at a pendulum in and of itself, moving and in tandem, working with each other to shut down and read what other offenses are doing. But England are so damn sophisticated.
This is it,
and that's the thing. It's like tough. It is tough.
It's tough to even call. I don't know.
Yeah.
You could be seeing for the first time ever, like looking around bamboozled because that England shape I do rate. We've not seen it, but we also are saying this England shape is something unique that we haven't seen in the game before.
What's more likely if it's going to be broken up, I think, is you've got your standard screen ball, you've got your multi options, you've maybe got a Toji running on an inside, Billy V running a short ball, and a guy on the outside, and you've got Am going, right, if he throws this outside ball, I got him.
Yeah.
I've got, who do I have? I've got C. Khaleesi here on my inside looking after Billy V, and we've got Big Peter Steff on the inside looking after Toji. So happy days. I think the picture for the English offense, the dangerous picture, is that Faz sees this and goes, all right, Billy, job is you, and Billy puts a bit of footwork on it. All of a sudden he's outside Khaleesi, and Am is turned around going, oh shit, see you missed his tackle.
Yes.
And then like that's the picture. That the English offense can do that because it's just forcing guys in a bit more space to have to, you know, operate on both shoulders tackling elite players.
So like big players, big dynamic runners of football. Like even last week, we didn't even touch on it. Mako Vunipola was doing the Delindy role of hitting up off first phase off line out. Mako, the loose head prop, was carrying with pace and putting footwork on the line on it and getting them over the game line. So there's huge challenge in store for the Boks on defense. But we know their game for that. They love defending.
They do.
So it's like...
and that's the thing. They will break England if they do it effectively. The most important pictures of this game is, first of all, where it's being played. And then second of all, what's happening when England have the ball, I think is so crucial. But to just characterising what's going on in this game.
If they're getting quick and getting wide, that's probably a losing picture for the Springboks, even if it's not yielding tries in that given time. If they're just getting quick ball at will and retaining possession at will, there's no way you can defend that England team for 80 minutes and keep them scoreless. Like they will if that's the picture. But if they're slowed them up, if they're disrupting them, if they're winning few contacts, giving as good as they get in the contact area and slowing them up and harrying them, then it's anyone's game because the Boks will kick penalties that are conceded in ire from anywhere, including their own half. They have long boots.
And that's the thing, is like there's we've talked this whole game and we're about to predict it, and it's so tough because we haven't seen these teams at the rest. There are two just phenomenal teams. There isn't that clear picture that there was sort of at the other games in terms of how it's going to go and how to approach it. There are certain things that both sides shouldn't do that we've gone over. There are certain areas that maybe they should look into. Boks obviously should be attacking set piece. England obviously should be standing deep and trying to get outside Am. But outside of those vagaries, like it's just a question of who's winning all of these different matchups in all these different areas. And the chances are that not one side blows the other away, but both are getting plays off against each other. Couple that with
the fact that it's a final and things tend to get tighter and slower in finals in general.
It's there's a chance it'll be tit for tat. There's been a lot of chat in the week about England being foregone conclusion, I should say, and so much better than South Africa. I don't see that at all.
No.
I see two brilliant teams that are going to go at it hammer and tongs, and the matchup ultimately is going to be between the two giant packs and then the English offense against the South African defense. That's what's ultimately, I think, going to colour it. But as far as how it's going to go, it's so tough. There's so many little deciding factors, and most important is just what's happening in that collision zone. Etzebeth runs into Maro Toji. What happens?
We don't know the answer to that yet.
Does the pitch explode?
Maybe.
Earthquakes, is there an earthquake?
Tsunami.
We don't know.
But
I mean, that is ultimately what you're looking at here. I think in terms of just generating momentum and everything else. And then maybe like if it gets narrow, if it's all coming down there, it's just going to come down to who makes the play. I mean, last week Maro Toji was making plays for days. Last week Francois Lowe made a play and a half in a 16-all draw to get the Boks down the field. Practically won them the game with a big jackal play.
This is true.
Those moments, if the game is tight, are going to be so crucial. And who's going to get them? Both sides have the potential to get them, so it's so damn tough. I don't know. I can't call it.
You can't call it, but you must call it.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I'll say. You know who I'm going to say.
I do know.
I love the Boks. So and you know what? I've been calling them to win the World Cup.
You have
for
you said it
from
the
while.
outset.
So I mean, I'll stick to guns. I'll say the 6-2 split on the bench when it gets tight. Francois Lowe, Franco Mostert is just like, I know George Cruz is great, but I just think that, and also that front row.
Wilson came off the bench for England and made a play not dissimilar to Francois Lowe's in a more dominant show. But
listen, England are great. I could be wrong. Could have egg on the face next week.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just think that marauding Boks 6 forwards that are coming off the bench, what they could do to the scrum then. Kitsoff and Koch and Malcolm Marx is arguably stronger than the unreal starters, and that's just a tough matchup for sure. So you're saying the box by a score,
yeah, like as in 5.
Well, no, as in within 5.
Okay,
tight.
Right. I'll colour it then. I'll say it's the other way around. I'll say England will do it by a score, to maybe a bit more, but I suspect a score like 5 or 7, maybe 8.
French refs.
Yeah, could be a case of fucking French refs. But I'd also I'm going to go with the principle of the team that, like you saying, make the plays but find the tries. And I see more tries in this England team. I certainly see more avenues for scoring tries in this England team. So if it comes down to that tight affair, I think it'll be the English who find the try, find the tempo, find the score. And take it on that basis. But I do think either way, with either of those results, it'll be a tight contest for most of the game, and it will come down to 1 or 2 key moments in that second half to go and win the game. And I also see a hell of a lot of playmakers, and that, like you're talking about the rotation, but those English starters are playmaking for days. You have Itoje, Mako, George Cruz coming off the bench, but Courtney Laws makes plays, Billy Vunipola. Both of those flankers.
Haven't even mentioned the Johnny May tries.
Johnny May tries that have been a feature, a staple part of an English diet. Is a Johnny May try.
Jamie George, how good has he been? Bumping off Brodie Retallick last week.
This is true.
So many insane players in this game. We could go through the whole 46.
We could.
You
may have to bear with it, but I think we're going to say that. So you're calling box. I'll say England. But we really don't know. And they are 2 deserving finalists.
They are.
Absolute monstrous packs. It's going to be ferocious, and I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Do not miss it.
Do not miss it. No, not for anything. This is the World Cup final, baby. This is the biggest game for the next 4 years. And 2 worthy finalists, hungry, awesome teams playing awesome footy. Nothing but respect and love for both of them. And I'm just like, listen, our horses run as far as Ireland.
No horse in this race.
We are just going to sit down and enjoy it on Saturday morning. And listen, thank you so much for joining us through this World Cup Odyssey, and it has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been great fun. It's been tiring at times. We've been busy in our own lives trying to get together to do all this coverage, but it's been absolutely splendid doing it and tremendous fun. And thanks to everyone who's come along for the ride.
Thanks to everyone who's come with us. Thanks to all the new subscribers and the guys who stuck with us from before. Everyone who's commented, people who've joined our live streams. It's been a lot of fun. We will be back next week with a sort of a tournament review. We'll colour that in a few different ways. We'll talk about, Uruguay again and what the big stories were from the whole tournament, as well as looking back on the final and everything else. But this is the next time that you see us, there will have been a World Cup final. There will be a new world
champion to emerge from this weekend. And who will it be?
England or South Africa?
Green or white? Rose or box? Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's still, man, it's so exciting. World Cup final time.
Yeah.
Come on, it doesn't get any better.
All right, guys.
All right.
We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, and take care. And go on the box. All right. Right.
All right, you're up.
That was so tame.
Just